Hello, everybody. We have a very wonderful guest today. Her name is Ann Myrna from Acrostar Productions. Hi, Ann. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Next to my right is Miss Cat. She is our wonderful, wonderful host. And then I am Luna, your co host. We'll be discussing today a little bit about what Anne's doing with Acrostar Productions and as well as the legend of Tinker Hell. Ooh. So let's get started. And so tell us a little bit about Acrostar Productions for those of us that are not familiar with it.
Alrighty, well, it was officially formed a little over a year ago with my business partner, Steve Herman. He previously had been doing films kind of on his own under the name Acrostar Films and has started to use me as an actress and a producer. And we just started talking about how we could grow the business because he has written 9 different books and he was starting to adapt some of his books to film. And I cannot help out on the creative end at all. I'm like the least creative person in the room ever. But I'm very organized, having worked in information technology for many, many years. So we kind of combine forces, and I think we make a good team because our skill sets complement each other. So we create based on either books that Steve has written or original stories that he comes up with.
Awesome, Anne. And how many books has he written so far?
He's written 9 books so far.
Wow. You got your work cut out for you, huh?
Yes, and he has an endless number of new ideas that keep popping into his head. So yeah, we will be busy forever.
That's awesome. You guys sound like an amazing pair. That's always helpful when one person is creative and the other is very financially, mathematically driven and a people
Mhm.
person. Because that's what I tend to find with a lot of creatives. They're introverts. They're
Ah,
like,
yeah,
get away from me, you know. So he definitely needs you to help get the work out there so we can enjoy it. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
One of the One of the works that I'm familiar with, actually, Kat, that we have reviewed on the show is It Came From Somewhere.
Oh, it's a
That was so fun. We actually talked to our friend Bill about that.
okay. So
I'm sure you're familiar with him, working with him and his fun, outgoing personality. So, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what was the process for getting that out and getting that published?
Steve Herman likes to watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. And he was watching it one night and he thought, wouldn't it be fun to do something Ed Wood, Roger Corman style, black and white, intentionally leave continuity mistakes in it, have it be like a creature feature sci-fi type thing, but have some comedic elements to it. And he had asked several of the actors that he had worked with before, anybody be interested in a film like that? And everybody was like, yes, yes, please, please put me in. And so in that one, I was the producer, and then I also played Dolores, who was kind of the grandmother that is caring for 2 of her grown grandchildren. But it was such a blast to make. Number one, you on camera, especially if people come from a theater background, which I've done some theater as well, you have to play to the back row. So you do everything big and exaggerated. The acting back in the 50s was of that style because everybody kind of was a theater actor. There were very few film actors. So rather than bringing it down to the camera, being close to you, we played it up big. And like overdid everything, every expression, and he tried to use some language of the time as well, so that it would appear that it was made in the 50s. So during post production, he intentionally put, like some graininess to the film. We used super cheap props, like we made all the props. The flying saucers are ridiculous. They're like pie tins, which of course made it a lot of fun as well. The alien spacesuits were just cover ups, like a basic navy blue cover up, but we had tape, colored tape that we, puts an insignia on the costumes with. So yeah, major DIY on that one. And again, we just really had a blast. We also took the Roger Corman approach that you don't do a whole bunch of takes and you don't do a whole bunch of coverage. So normally when you film, say, dialogue between the three of us, we'd have an establishing shot that shows all three of us, and then we would come in and we would have the camera just on me and we'd run the scene. Then we'd have the camera just on Luna and run the scene, and the camera just on Kat and run the scene. We did not do that. We just put everybody in a wide shot and just filmed it. There are times when, so when we went to pitch it, we wanted to show it at a local movie theater near where we filmed in Central Illinois. And I was writing up a description for it, and I'm addressing it like a family-friendly film, and then Steve reminds me, like a lot of people die in that movie, but they don't die violently. Again, kind of style of the 50s. And I found these plastic ray guns on Amazon, so we use those, and then a plastic skeleton. And so if you got shot with a ray gun, you got turned into a skeleton. And so we would just have the person standing there, we'd say freeze, and then we would line up the skeleton like exactly where they were standing. The person would step out of frame. You'd still see like a hand in frame holding the skeleton sometimes. Then we'd roll and the person would just, drop the skeleton. But I think it turned out really cool. And it's for sure the most fun film that I have ever had anything to do with.
And it was so much fun watching. I still talk about it with other filmmakers, especially those that are scared to take on sci-fi with a low budget, but it can be done phenomenally, as you showed us, with so much hilarity. It's epic. I just love that part.
Yeah, that one was distributed through Film Hub, so it appears on many different streaming platforms. There's some online platform. It has like thousands of comments on it. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but yeah, it's just amazing how you have to kind of like that niche. I think a lot of the really younger people might not appreciate it because they don't have that sense of what older films were like. So I think if you have that sense, maybe you learned it in school, you are young and you learned it in school or whatever, I think you get more out of it than somebody who just really doesn't know anything about the history of film.
Yeah, for all of those that are tuned in, I would highly encourage you watch this. It is for free on Tubi, and it has wonderful reviews on there. So if you guys wanna, check it out and see what we're talking about, see all the sci-fi adventure, go check it out on Tubi. It's free, so, give them some love on there. Now moving, right along to Tinker Hell. Kind of how would you compare this project of The Legend of Tinker Hell to It Came From Somewhere? How do those two differ, and how are they all similar?
Let's talk about how they're similar first off. It's another idea that just popped into Steve Herman's head. We work with a young actress named Delilah Hefner, and a long time ago, Steve had asked Delilah what kind of film he should make if it was up to her. And this is when, over 5 years ago, probably. I think she's 12 now. And she said, well, how about something with fairies? And Steve kind of only does horror and paranormal and, sci-fi type stuff. He's like, that's a fairy thing. Well, all of a sudden, maybe I can do a fairy thing. So he does, he listens to every word that everybody who works with him says. And there's another film that comes from a cast member suggestion as well, the Corn Zombie line that we have, Attack of the Corn Zombie and Return of the Corn Zombies. So they're similar in that way. The Legend of Tinker Hell is also low budget, but we want a much higher low budget. We're still definitely in the low budget turf, but we would like to spend more because one of the major differences between Tinkerbell and It Came From Somewhere is Tinkerbell is going to have a lot of gore and violence. And It Came From Somewhere had, like I say, I mean, people got killed, but it was in a comical kind of a way. There was no blood, and It Came From Somewhere whatsoever. But there's going to be buckets and buckets of blood in The Legend of Tinkerbell, thanks to our SFX guy, Marcus Cook. He's known for very visceral special effects for horror movies. So it's a nice fairy, but she's psychotic, so she murders a lot of people.
That's sounds like so much fun. And I see that Lynn Lowry is your director, and we interviewed the a Halloween Feast folks, and she was phenomenal in that.
Oh, yes,
We
she
had so much fun watching.
Yeah, Lynn has become a good friend of mine. She's actually co-director of Legend of Tinkerbell. So Steve Herman will be the lead director, and Lynn will be the co-director. But yeah, we worked with Lynn for the first time in Attack of the Corn Zombies, and I had been friends with her on Facebook for a while, and saw like she was doing all these projects and stuff. And I sent her a DM and I said, like we've been friends for a while. I've been commenting on your stuff. You've been nice enough to comment on my stuff, like, would you ever think about working with someone as small as Acrostar? Because we are a very, very small production company. And she's like, well, of course. So we talked, terms and conditions and stuff like that, and came to an agreement. And so with her coming on board for that, and then she and I were also paired together in Night of the Dead Sorority Babes, which is another Acrostar film where she and I both had larger roles than we did in the corn zombie thing. So again, just kind of developed the friendship over the years. And when this one was coming up, I asked her, if that would be something she'd be interested in terms of being a co-director, and she absolutely agreed. So we're really looking forward to it. I mean, Lynn has such vast experience. Number one, she's the nicest person in the world. Number two, she has such vast experience. So, for her to be able to mentor, the team that comprised the cast, it's really a wonderful thing. So we haven't really, dug right into it because our filming is scheduled for May of 2026. So after the holidays, we'll start digging in. We've had one table read so far, or Steve will go through a round of revisions in the script a little bit. And then after the holidays, we'll all get together on Zoom and read again. And then she can start working with individuals and do some character development prior to coming on set. But it'll be great to have her on set with us as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she's fantastic in Halloween Feast. Oh my God, yeah.
Yes, it was great.
Yeah.
So is
Nice.
the script pretty much done for Tinker Hell?
Yes. Yeah, as I mentioned, we've had one table read so far. Steve likes to hear the characters, everyone's voices, and then he's got a few revisions planned, so he'll go ahead and go through those over the holidays, and then we'll get everybody back together and go through that. So again, something that's a little different than some indie production companies. We don't really just have like an idea and then say, okay, we don't have a script or anything yet. Let's just throw some names in there, and let's throw some AI video out there and start crowdfunding, and yay rah, we're making a movie. We actually like write the script, write the script first, which I think is a solid thing to do. We also don't try to like maybe mislead some people by showing some fancier footage than we're able to create. Let's just put it that way. And I know there's justification in, when you're trying to raise interest, that you would show people things that represent. I'm back. Anyway, sometimes some people advocate using AI during crowdfunding to represent the concept that you're going to create. But if people literally think you're going to create something that cool looking, to me, and with my set of standards, they're being misled a little bit. So we will never do that. We do shoot, like while we're working on another film or another short, we might run a little scenario or a scene or like a little skit or something that will represent what the film is going to be. So that's our approach to it, is just, basically lay the cards on the table. We're not trying to trick anybody into thinking that we're creating some masterpiece of cinema with the kind of budget that we have to work with. We believe in paying everybody, even if the pay is low. We lay that all out ahead of time. Communication is key, so that everybody's on the same page. And it's wonderful to see people come together and work together to achieve that goal.
And Luna, it's happening. Your obsession for fantasy horror is coming to life.
Yes, I'm so excited. I've always asked directors and producers, come on, we need more fantasy horror, and I'm super, super stoked. Uh, fairies, fays, and blood. Like that just sounds like the dream for me. Very mythical beings and a lot of blood. We love it. I can appreciate the fact that you do not use AI. One of my favorite screenwriters and directors right now is Vince Gilligan. And he famously, on his new show, Pluribus, he puts a little disclaimer made by humans
Yeah.
because he hates AI. He said, and they interviewed him, and he said, I haven't worked with AI because nobody's come to me with a gun to my head and forced me to do it. So I was like, wow, a lot of really interesting people are in the industry, of course, are very against AI because it's taking a lot of what makes art human, what makes movies human. So I do appreciate that stance, and I'm glad that Acrostar is true to making movies just the human touch, giving it that human touch. So I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Let's not let AI take over art. It can take over the dishes. That's boring. Let
Yeah.
it do the dishes and
Or
laundry.
cure cancer.
But
Like if it could cure cancer, go for it. Yeah.
yeah, cure cancer, do stuff that we can do, but art, leave it to us to enjoy others' arts because that's just a human experience. And
Mhm.
I don't think a robot is ever to feel human emotions. But that's the kind of dilemma that we're dealing with nowadays. What is humanity? And it's very interesting. A lot of movies that I've been seeing kind of in cinema currently are kind of exploring that. What makes humans human? What is the human experience? And it's very, very interesting. So I definitely concur with a lot of sentiments behind that. Now, speaking of back to Tinkerhell before we went over this whole AI of this whole AI detour there. Um, is there anything that you can say about Tinkerhell other than phase and blood? Like anything that
Well,
you're able to say?
there's a lot of humans in it too. So, um,
Ah.
essentially, so on the human side of things, there's a little girl, Peyton, and she's played by Delilah Hefner, who I had mentioned before. I've worked with her many times. She's an outstanding actress. Um, she is sad because her sister kind of treats her badly and makes fun of her and makes her like do chores around the house and stuff. And Peyton really loves fairies, so she's always sitting in her room drawing fairies. And then her older sister will make fun of her for, liking fairies because there's no such thing as fairies. And their parents go out of town for a weekend and instruct the older sister, no parties while we're gone. Absolutely no parties. Well, of course, she has a party, and it happens to be a costume party. Um, and again, as Peyton is getting kind of mistreated, she, wishes that she had a fairy that could help her. And there appears Tinkerhell, who is called Ellie in the script. Um, and Ellie kind of has an ulterior motive because she was banished from the fairy realm for being bad, doing things like gutting creatures and, like gory, bad kind of things in the fairy realm. And
Serial killer.
yes, so Ellie makes a deal with Peyton that I'll be your fairy if, you'll be my partner. So she's planning on turning Peyton into kind of one of her child slaves. But Peyton doesn't know that, of course. And Ellie just decides that if somebody is mean to Peyton during this costume party and she finds them isolated, she poofs into the room and makes a bloody mess out of that person. And so it's not like your typical, where the bad guy is like stalking people, and you see him coming, or you hear a chainsaw in the distance, he's coming and stuff. She just poofs and then splatter. So yeah, we're gonna make a mess, and of course everybody dies in different ways, creative ways, of course. Um, and in the end, it's kind of left. So I'm like the head of the fairies. My name is Faye. I kind of come in and I see what Ellie is doing, and we have to put a stop to it, type of thing. So I kind of come in and repair some damage and yank her back into the fairy realm, and then it's kind of left a little open in the end about like what really is Ellie now going to do, and like, does she have another set of bad plans? And there's another fairy who might not have the best intentions as well. So that's essentially the story. So we're going to have fun with it.
Murder.
Yes, fairy murderer.
Nice. Sounds like lots of fun chaos to be had.
Yes.
I love the artwork for it. That's just a beautiful image.
Yes, that's kind of our second poster. So we like to do more than one movie poster. The first one was a photograph of Beth Metcalf, who's playing Ellie, kind of with a smirk on her face and a little blood on her wand, kind of thing, to kind of get people curious about it. And then we hired an artist, Eric Wilson, who had also done a poster for us for Perfect Soul, and he paints. So he took a photograph of Beth and basically painted that and added the dangling head. Yeah, he's such a good artist. And again, like, forget the AI stuff on the posters. That's another thing I see other filmmakers do. I mean, I know it's a way to get it started or whatever, but your poster art is very important in conveying kind of the essence of the film. But again, it shouldn't convey that it's like a Hollywood production, so again, kind of like we kind of walk a more of a straight and narrow path and say, we want people to get excited about stuff, but we don't want to oversell what we're doing, because again, it's still a low budget film. And various people who review films, sometimes they're like, well, like the story was there, but it was so low budget. Well, we work with what we have to work with. We are not independently wealthy. We do rely on crowdfunding, but with crowdfunding, we try to get people involved in the movie if they want to be, either by contributing their image or even their name. So like, one of the perks for Tinker Hill is you can have your name on a booze bottle, because the older teenagers who throw the party, they're obviously going to be drinking booze. And so, I'll make up custom labels, and I try to make them, a little lighthearted, a play on words, depending on what the person's name is. Review that with them first, make sure they're okay with it, and then they get to keep that bottle as a collectible from the film. We're selling screen use costumes. You have your photo in the film. You can draw a picture of a fairy, even if you have no artistic skill whatsoever. And I will put that picture in the film. It'll be on the wall in Peyton's bedroom, or somewhere around there, to help decorate the set. So, hopefully people will get involved and be part of the film and not just be contributing money to the film.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
definitely
I
have
was
some
looking at
art.
that on the page, and I
Yeah.
love that you can act in a group death. You got to be age 20 to 26 for $199. Have those already been filled, or are there any slots left?
There are slots left with that. That one mostly because of the age. So we're trying to portray these kids as younger than college age. So again, if we have a 40-year-old middle-aged looking woman, hanging out with a bunch of 18-year-olds is going to look kind of
Well,
weird.
there's options for the older ones, right? Where they can act in a car wash for $4.99, no age limit there, or
Mhm.
be killed in the film for $9.99.
Yes,
That's
or even
awesome.
be in the fairy court if if you're not interested in actually having any dialogue. Basically it's like a featured background type of a role. Be part of the fairy court. I've collected like some different styles of what fairy attire could look like. So I'll work with people, kind of as a producer on coming up with a look for them. So yeah, we've got a lot of options, and our campaign was on Indiegogo. Um, we kind of got caught up in the changing of the platform for Indiegogo. They were acquired by a company called GameFound and moved to GameFound's technology like 3 days before the end of our campaign. So we had already exceeded our goal, but we had almost an entire day of downtime for their migration, which was only supposed to be a couple hours. Um, and then once the migration happened, the way the new platform ends campaigns was radically different than the way the old platform ended campaigns. The old platform, you used to go to what they call an in-demand state, and your campaign remained open and people could continue. So you could keep that momentum going. That's not the way Indiegogo works now. Your campaign ends, you have an option to continue it, but there's a 15-day waiting period before you can continue it, which makes no sense to me from a marketing perspective. Again, you've kind of like ramped up all this interest and build this momentum, and it's like, okay, now we're just going to like do nothing for 2 weeks, and you can't make a contribution. So, being the nerd that I am, I started building all of our perks right onto our website. So the legendoftinkerhell.com has all of the perks on it that were in the campaign. The payment is through PayPal. So if people are like, oh, well, they're going to rip me off if I just give them money because it's not on Indiegogo, that's not the case. I mean, number one, we don't do that. And number two, you always have recourse through PayPal since you're actually paying through PayPal. I do have an option. You can like direct deposit to our bank account if you want. And some people have done that because they know who we are. They know that when we say we're going to do something, we're actually going to see it through, and we're not going to spend 3 years in post production either. Um, we're going to film in May. Potentially.
Oh no. She went to Tinker Hell. No.
I'm
There
back.
you are.
um, so, in terms of release, maybe the end of 2026, more likely first quarter 2027. We already have a distributor, Bayview Entertainment, who distributes 4 of our other films. Have
Nice.
jumped on board, and we've signed a distribution agreement with them, and they will, get it out to the world type of thing. We'll have a premiere in a movie theater somewhere. I don't know where yet, but yeah, and then we also recruit, people local to the area that we film in, just for extras, like man on the street kind of stuff. No specific like role to it. More average nondescript person in the
Mhm.
background type of thing. But they have a blast doing that as well. We've got a lot of people who have worked with over and over and over again who live in the central Illinois area. So that's always a lot of fun to see them again too.
Where is going to be the filming location, like, in Chicago or
No, we don't film in Chicago because it's wicked expensive to film in
Mm,
Chicago. So we film in central Illinois. We have used the towns of you're not going to have heard of these towns: Dewey, Farmer City, Magnolia. Yeah, they're itty bitty farming towns. And the thing that is cool about them, we just filmed last weekend in Farmer City, and we wanted to. The main setting was an antique store, and there's a lady who runs an antique store down there called Junkin Lady. And all I have to do is call her up, and she leaves the key under the mat for me, and we let ourselves in, and we drop the key back in the mail slot when we're done. We put everything back the way we found it, type of thing. There was no gore to that at all, so like we weren't making a mess in her place or anything. And we've used her location a couple of times. So yeah, the people are very, very welcoming. I've tried to book some restaurant space before, and those people wanted to get paid like we were Hollywood. So we did not film at their location. But we always list them in the credits and stuff. The people who work there, if they want to be in the movie, I'll put them in the movie, give them something to do. Usually they have nothing to do with it. But it's just really sweet that you can get people to help you out in that type of a fashion. In addition to people who just like will give you money, to get producer credits and things like that. So our exact filming location will depend on the funds that we raise. I do have a place on hold that would be our house location. Actually, we're going there on Friday to direct a short film with Steve Herman called Leap of Faith. And that's, again, a location we've used over and over and over again. They know we make movies there. They are so generous with their space. It's just really amazing.
Well, thank you. That was really a great answer, and I hope that everything comes to fruition and people donate to the cause, and they donate their fairy art and
Mhm.
all that fun stuff. It's very affordable to participate in this. You can also do a special thanks for $35. There's a bunch of stuff. So support Anne and what she's doing at Acrostar Productions. It's very important. Now, before we close off everything, Kat and Anne, is there anything else that you'd like to mention or anything else that you want to ask before we start wrapping things up?
I would just like to mention that we also have a Facebook group. If you search on Facebook for Acrostar, it's like indie films from Acrostar. It's kind of long. We have a page that's Acrostar Films, but we're more active on the group. There's about 6,000 people in that group, and so we post updates on all our projects on there. If I'm casting things like extras, or if we have casting for auditions for other things, we will post to that group. So that's a great way to keep up with us. And I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's been a
definitely.
pleasure talking with you, Anne.
Thanks.
I definitely cannot wait for this movie to be in post production and out in the world. I think it sounds kind of up my alley, and I'm really, really excited for something as fabulous as this, and I cannot wait. Thank you so
We'll
much, Anne.
definitely have to have another show when it's done and we can talk about it and
Yes,
celebrate all the awesomeness.
Awesome. I would love that.
definitely come back and we can do a deep dive on the characters. Kat and I love to sit down and kind of dissect these things, maybe talk about some psychological components of the films and kind of break down characters to the nitty and gritty. So we love doing that, and we love having directors, producers, actors with us through that process, so we can kind of discuss the characters in more detail. We kind of dissect them a little bit.
Awesome.
Thank you. Kat, do you want to go ahead and go over what we're doing next week, or do you want me to go ahead and take over for that?
Oh, you can go ahead, love.
Okay, so next week we are having Nadia Cox over at So Glad We Never Met. It is going to be a horror short that we're going to be discussing, and it's a female-led horror short. We love definitely campaigns that have a lot of feminine energy. We can discuss that in a little bit more detail. So that'll be very, very fun to do. So that will be next week on the 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern. So we hope to see you here. See you guys next week. And thank you so much, Anne, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
And we're going to have to show Anne how we say goodbye here. So we
Yes.
we love Lovecraftian, so we do a Cthulhu goodbye.
Little tentacle
Tentacle
action.
actions.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hello, boils and ghouls. It's your old pal, John Cassier, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I want to thank you for listening to Delight and Fright with your hosts, Luna and Cat, a podcast for outcasts.